I'm Claire Ramirez, 30 years old, an ER nurse at a hospital in Denver. 12 hours in the emergency room can drain anyone: cardiac arrests, bleeding wounds, children crying in pain. But today, what truly broke me wasn't a patient. It was my own family. That afternoon, Denver's sky glowed golden with the sunset, the distant snow-capped mountains shimmering like silver. I drove my beat-up old Toyota home, craving nothing more than a hot meal and a few hours of peaceful sleep. My shift had been brutal: 3 cardiac emergencies, a pediatric accident, and a man who nearly choked on his own dentures. The smell of antiseptic clung to my scrubs. But as I pulled up to my 2-story suburban house, the one I'd poured everything into saving, a strange feeling hit me. The window curtains were gone, completely bare. My heart skipped a beat. Mom's probably just washing them, I told myself. She had those cleaning frenzies whenever Dad stirred up financial trouble. I stepped inside. The door creaked open with its familiar groan. But what greeted me wasn't the warmth of home. It was a cold, empty space echoing my footsteps. The sofa where Dad used to watch football? Gone. The wooden table where Mom displayed her porcelain bird collection? Vanished. The family photos lining the staircase, snapshots of my life from kindergarten to nursing school graduation, wiped clean. Everything was gone. I ran through the house like a madwoman. The kitchen was empty. The bedroom had nothing but faded marks on the walls where picture frames once hung. Even the attic, where I kept a wooden box of childhood memories, was stripped bare. It was as if no family had ever lived here. And then I saw it. In the middle of the living room floor, under a sliver of fading sunlight streaming through the window, lay a lone white envelope. My trembling hands tore it open. My mother's familiar slanted handwriting stared back, each word slicing into my heart. "Thank you for fixing our credit, you failure. Don't call us. Mom and Dad." I sank to the floor, my vision blurring. In that moment, my world shattered. My phone buzzed in my scrub pocket. An automated text from a real estate agency. "Congratulations. The property at 4920 Maple Street has been successfully listed. Transaction expected within 30 days. That was my house. There was no doubt now. They hadn't just abandoned me. They were selling the only thing I'd fought to save. I curled up, my back pressed against the cold wooden floor. Memories flooded in, choking me. 7 months ago, I was reeling from a bitter breakup. After 3 years together, my boyfriend kicked me out with a single sentence: "I need my space." I slept in my car for weeks, eating instant noodles, saving every penny to rent a tiny room. Then came a 2 a.m. call from Mom, her voice breaking. "Claire, we're about to lose the house. Your dad made a bad investment. We owe $310,000. If the bank forecloses, we'll be on the streets." Staring at my phone's glowing screen in the dark, I remembered the front door where I'd marked my height every year, Dad's laughter as he taught me to catch a ball in the yard, Mom's hands guiding me to bake apple pie. I couldn't let it go. I chose to carry the burden. I took double shifts at the hospital, my feet numb in worn-out nursing shoes. I canceled my dental insurance, racked up credit card debt. I ate ramen 5 nights a week. I did it all to scrape together enough to pay off the debt and save the house. Back then, I thought, even if they've wronged me, even if it's unfair, they're still my parents. I won't let them lose everything. I never imagined they'd be the ones to leave me with nothing. Back in the present, tears streamed down my face. The note shook in my hands. Every sacrifice, every drop of sweat, every aching night shift, all for 2 words: "You failure." Nausea hit me, and I clutched my stomach, struggling to breathe. But amidst the dizziness, a stronger, clearer voice rose within me. "If this is a battlefield, I'm not going to lose." I wiped my tears, forcing myself to sit up. I knew my family, Thomas, Linda, and Eric, had always seen me as their financial crutch, but they forgot I knew how to fight, and this time, I wasn't backing down. As I write this, my heart still trembles with anger and pain. I'm sharing this story not just to vent, but to show you, the reader, a truth. Sometimes the people we love most can betray us the deepest. But will we let them destroy us or turn our wounds into strength? If you've ever been betrayed or borne the weight of unfairness from family or loved ones, share your feelings below. I want to know I'm not alone on this journey. Don't forget to follow, because what happens next will surprise you even more. Have you ever walked into your own home, the place that's supposed to be your sanctuary, only to feel like a stranger? That night, standing in the empty room with that cruel note in my hand, a gut feeling told me this was just the tip of the iceberg. Something darker was waiting to be uncovered. I tore through the house like someone hunting for treasure in ruins. In a kitchen drawer, I found a few stray junk mail letters they hadn't taken. On the dining table, hidden under an old newspaper, was a crumpled blue folder. My heart raced as I pulled it out. A sales contract for the house. Dated 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks! While I was working night shifts, bringing groceries home for them, believing this house was still our shared anchor, they'd sold me out long before. I bit my lip until it bled. In the slanted lines of the contract, I saw Dad, Thomas, with his cool-as-a-cucumber smile, Mom, Linda, with her familiar social media theatrics, and Eric, my spoiled little brother who'd burned through Grandma's inheritance on a failed bar. I opened my phone, my fingers shaking as I pulled up Mom's Facebook. The screen lit up with images that made me both nauseous and furious. Mom and Dad, hand in hand, beaming in front of a small house in Texas. Eric stood between them, holding up a key like he'd won the lottery. Mom's caption read, "New beginnings in the Lone Star State, finally free, leaving behind Denver's heavy days." Hundreds of comments cheered them on. "So happy for you, Diane. Congrats on the fresh start." No one knew that their freedom came at the cost of me, their own daughter, losing my home, my everything. My throat tightened with rage and pain. I felt erased from their story as if I'd never existed in this family. The next morning, a knock at the door. It was Mrs. Patterson, my neighbor of over 20 years. Her silver hair was mussed by the wind, her eyes filled with worry, clutching a cardboard box. "Claire, sweetheart, I knew something was wrong," she said softly. "That night, I saw them loading a truck. They told everyone you agreed to sell the house to move to Texas with them. I knew it was a lie." I choked up, tears welling. She opened the box. Inside were a few family photos, ones Eric had tossed into a donation bin. Mrs. Patterson had salvaged them for me. "These belong to you," she said, placing the box in my hands. That small gesture pulled me back from the abyss. At least someone saw the truth. Someone refused to buy the glossy facade my parents had built. That evening, I sat on the floor, surrounded by papers and warped picture frames. I flipped through the contract again, reading every line. At the final page, a detail set my heart ablaze. The legal owner was listed as Claire Ramirez. I remembered that long night 7 months ago when I'd slipped my parents a refinancing document. In reality, it was a quitclaim deed, temporarily transferring ownership to me. I'd lied, saying it was for tax purposes. They signed without reading. It was half deception, half desperation. And now, that gamble had become my only shield. My phone rang, a number from the real estate agency. I answered, and a polite female voice came through. "We apologize for the confusion. According to legal records, the house is solely in your name, Ms. Ramirez. Your parents and brother are not on the title. We must halt the sale until the legal owner consents." I closed my eyes, exhaling deeply. A wave of relief mixed with bitterness washed over me. They'd tried to sell me out, but their own underestimation of me had brought them down. Night fell. I sat curled up on the empty staircase, clutching the stack of documents. Outside, Denver's wind howled through the eaves, rattling the for sale signs they'd put up. I whispered, my voice hoarse but firm. "You pushed me to the edge, and I found my way to survive." I knew the real battle was just beginning. They wouldn't give up easily. But this time, I wasn't the dutiful daughter bailing them out anymore. I had proof, legal standing, and most importantly, resolve. If you find this story gripping, comment why. If not, be honest and type N. I want to know if you truly relate or think I'm just being overdramatic. Have you ever walked into a room knowing, the moment you sit down, your life will take a new path? I did. That morning, I walked into the title office in downtown Denver, my heart pounding, hands gripping a thick folder so tightly it left marks on my skin. The receptionist smiled politely but looked surprised when I gave my name. Ms. Ramirez, we've been expecting you. I nodded, trying to stay calm, though a storm raged inside. I knew that in just a few minutes, my parents and brother would hear from a lawyer's mouth that they'd lost all control over this house. In the meeting room, Mr. Abernathy, the title officer, stood to shake my hand. A middle-aged man with a sturdy build and a no-nonsense voice, he'd likely handled hundreds of property disputes. He set my folder on the table, his eyes sharp but fair. Ms. Ramirez, we've reviewed all the documents thoroughly. The quitclaim deed, signed by your parents, is legally notarized and properly filed. The house at Maple Street is entirely in your name. I took a deep breath. It was the confirmation I'd waited months for. But I knew the main event was yet to come. Mr. Abernathy pressed the speakerphone button. A crackling sound filled the room. My father, Thomas, immediately roared, "This is a lie! She tricked us into signing refinancing papers! She's a fraud!" My mother, Linda, cut in, her voice trembling but familiar. "Claire, how could you be so heartless? We raised you, and now you're stealing our family's wealth?" My breath caught, but I was no longer the scared little girl. I sat up straight, looked Mr. Abernathy in the eye, and said, slowly, deliberately, "They signed. No one forced them. The documents are clear. This isn't fraud. This is the truth. And this house is mine." In that moment, I heard the silence sweep the room. Like a thunderclap, my words weren't just a claim to ownership. They were a declaration of my life. From now on, I wouldn't let guilt or shame manipulate me. On the other end, my father shouted, "You owe us! Without us, you'd have nowhere to live. You have to give it all back." I closed my eyes, letting the anger rise and fall like a tide. When I opened them, I replied calmly, "No, I've paid. I paid with sleepless night shifts, with credit card debt, with my health and youth. I don't owe anyone anymore." My mother sobbed. That sound used to melt me 1,000 times over. But today it had no power. I looked at Mr. Abernathy. He nodded, his voice firm. "The documents are legally binding. No one can dispute that." My father went silent, followed by the long beep of the call ending. The room became eerily quiet. My body trembled, not from fear, but from release. For years, I'd lived under the shadow of being the dutiful daughter, constantly reminded of my debt to them to mask their exploitation. For the first time, I stood equal. No, stronger. I stood up for myself. Mr. Abernathy handed me the folder, his tone steady but kind. "Keep these safe. From today, you're the sole legal owner. If they try to sue, they have no grounds." I clutched the papers tightly. Those dry words were worth more than any gift. They were proof that my sacrifices weren't entirely in vain. As I stepped out of the building, the afternoon sun bathed me in warmth, like a blanket over my shoulders. The wind tousled my hair, carrying the scent of Denver's late fall grass. I paused on the steps, looking up at the clear blue sky, my heart suddenly light. I whispered, to myself and to the ghosts of betrayal that had haunted me, "I just took back my life." But I knew this wasn't the end. My family wouldn't accept defeat easily. They'd come back, with tears, threats, or smear campaigns. And I had to brace myself for a longer fight. If you want to hear more stories like mine and relate to the struggles I'm facing, check out my previous videos on this channel. You might think that once the law or a courtroom rules in your favor, it's over. But the truth is different. Family rifts don't vanish with a contract. They just morph into new weapons: threats, slander, emotional manipulation. And I, Claire Ramirez, had to face them in the days right after reclaiming my house. My phone buzzed constantly. A text from Eric, my brother who'd never done anything worthwhile except spend other people's money. "You've destroyed our family. Don't think you're safe. We'll take back what's ours." I stared at the screen, my heart heavy but my hands steady. I silently hit delete. The next day, a knock at the door. It was Uncle Greg, my father's brother, standing awkwardly. His black Cadillac idled on the street, as if he were only stopping by briefly. "Claire," he said softly, "don't be too harsh. This can be settled peacefully. Sell the house, take half, give the rest to your parents and Eric. Everyone wins." I looked into his eyes, seeing his unease. He wasn't a bad person, just too used to the cycle of covering for his brother, hiding the truth, and picking the easy way out. I replied, my voice firm but calm. I didn't start this, and I'm not selling out just to keep a fake peace. I won't do it. Uncle Greg shook his head, slipped me his business card, and left without another word. As if that wasn't enough pressure, my mother, who'd once sworn never to air family drama, posted a long Facebook status. Some children are ungrateful, forgetting their parents' sacrifices, only thinking of themselves. The pain is knowing we raised them. Dozens of comments poured in. So sorry, Diane. Stay strong. Only a few close relatives who knew the truth stayed silent or messaged me privately. I read every word, torn between pain and feeling ripped from the community I grew up in. But this time, I didn't react. I knew if I spoke up, they'd twist it to distort the truth further. One evening, as I was cleaning the living room, my phone rang. Uncle Greg again. I hesitated before answering. His voice was urgent. Claire, your dad's in the hospital. His heart's acting up, possible complications. The doctors say stress is the main cause. He's in the ICU at St. Mary's. I froze. Memories flooded back. Dad teaching me to catch a ball in the backyard, but also the man who'd thrown me into a pit of betrayal. Everyone probably thought I'd stand back and watch, that I'd take revenge by abandoning him. But my heart told me otherwise. I grabbed my coat, wallet, and drove straight to the hospital. The ICU's sterile white halls and sharp antiseptic smell reminded me of my own endless shifts. I stopped at the glass door, looking inside. Dad lay still on the bed, his chest rising and falling with the ventilator, wires connecting him to a monitor displaying his faint heartbeat. His usually stern face was pale, eyes closed. I stood there, gripping my bag, torn inside. Part of me wanted to walk in, take his hand, and ask, was it worth it, Dad? Was it worth betraying your daughter to end up like this? But another part reminded me, forgiveness doesn't mean opening yourself to more hurt. I chose silence. I walked to the front desk, pulled out my credit card, and said quietly but clearly, I'll cover the basic costs for this hospitalization. Please ensure he's well cared for. The nurse looked surprised, then nodded with gratitude. I won't stay, I added. Please tell the doctors to take care of him. Stepping out of the hospital, Denver's night enveloped me, streetlights casting a faint golden glow on the sidewalk. I stood in the empty corridor, my heart heavy but my eyes calm. I knew my decision would shock many. To them, forgiveness meant running back, embracing, and forgetting all wrongs. But I'd chosen a different path, compassion without weakness. I helped Dad not because he deserved it, but because I wanted to hold on to my humanity, the part that wouldn't let hatred turn me cold. I could close the door on the past without freezing my heart. Driving home, I realized this small act might be the first time Dad had to face the truth, that despite his betrayal, I chose to be the bigger person. And maybe that contrast would force him to look at himself. Have you ever seen someone who betrayed you come back, drenched from the rain, eyes pleading? I never imagined it would happen, but it did, right on my doorstep in a torrential Denver downpour. I was in the living room, the rain pounding outside like a mournful soundtrack. The desk lamp cast a weak golden glow on the folder I'd prepared months ago. Then the doorbell rang, urgent, as if someone's life depended on it. I walked to the door, my heart beating slow but steady. Through the frosted glass, I saw three familiar figures. Mom, Linda, her mascara streaked from the rain. Dad, Thomas, hunched and heavy-shouldered. And Eric, my brother, his leather jacket soaked, his scowl not hiding his exhaustion. When I opened the door, Mom rushed forward. Claire, we have nowhere else to go. Please let us in. The rain stung the porch, icy cold. In that moment, I saw myself from 7 months ago, lost, with nowhere to turn. But the difference was, back then, I'd saved myself. I stepped aside silently. Come in. The room echoed with the drip of water on the wooden floor. They sat across from me, soaked, like wanderers seeking their last refuge. The air was thick with tension. I didn't rush, just placed a thick folder on the table. My hands didn't shake, my voice steady. This is everything. $78,000 I paid the bank to save this house. $23,000 in credit card debt I took on. And this? I held up the framed note they'd left. The words burned into my heart. Thank you for fixing our credit, you failure. Don't call us. I set it down in front of them. Mom sobbed, her cries mixing with the rain outside. Claire, we were wrong, but we're family. You can't abandon us. Eric exploded. Stop acting high and mighty. You think these papers make you a hero? You're just selfish, hogging everything. Dad stayed silent. He bowed his head, hands trembling on his knees, eyes averted. I didn't know if it was shame, regret, or just defeat. I took a deep breath, keeping my voice calm. I'm not your wallet anymore. I've paid for 3 nights at Motel 6, already covered. After that, you're on your own. My words landed, firm, cutting the ties that bound us. Mom wailed, tears mixing with the rain still clinging to her face. Claire, you'd really kick your parents out? After everything we've been through? I met her gaze, no longer the scared daughter. No, Mom. I'm not kicking anyone out. I'm refusing to be used again. 3 nights at the motel, that's the mercy I'm giving the people who were once my family. After that, you choose your own path. Eric slammed the table, jumping up. You'll regret this, we're blood. You can't cut us off that easily. I turned to my spoiled brother. Blood doesn't give you the right to destroy someone, Eric. If you haven't learned that, it's time to go figure it out. In that moment, I saw Dad lift his head slightly. His cloudy eyes flickered with something indescribable, regret mixed with powerlessness. He opened his mouth as if to speak but closed it again, silent. I stood, walking to the door. My hand rested on the knob, turning it slowly. It's late. The motel's on 8th Street. 3 nights. After that, find your own way. This is the last time I'm holding out my hand. They didn't move at first, but eventually rose one by one. Mom turned back, her eyes pained, voice hoarse. Claire, you've really changed. I gave a faint smile. No, Mom, I just learned to love myself properly. The door closed behind them. The rain kept pouring, steady and relentless. But inside me, a lightness spread, as if the weight of years had lifted from my shoulders. I stood in the dark hallway listening to the rain. My heart was heavy with loss, but my eyes shone with a simple truth. Loving yourself isn't cruelty, it's justice. I don't know where they'll go or what they'll do after those 3 nights at Motel 6. They might keep blaming me, might try to come back, but one thing I know, this time I won't waver. Do you believe a house can heal a broken heart? I used to think 4 walls were just brick and wood, but after a year, I learned. When you pour your heart and freedom into it, it becomes a true home. That's what happened to me, with the house that was once a battlefield, now blooming as if no darkness ever touched it. A year has passed since I closed the door on my family in that cold rain. I started small, changing the locks, repainting every room, and turning the overgrown yard into a vibrant garden. I chose hardy flowers, zinnias, carnations, and especially sunflowers, symbols of pride and resilience. Each morning, opening the windows and breathing in the scent of fresh earth, I felt myself coming back to life. The wounds from betrayal began to heal, no longer bleeding, just scars reminding me of my inner strength. I didn't just rebuild the house, I rebuilt my life. Dad's old office, once cluttered with debt papers and failed plans, became a small pottery studio, a spinning wheel, a kiln, stacks of clay. At first, it was just a hobby to fill empty evenings, but soon I opened it to neighbors and colleagues. Surprisingly, many nursing students from my hospital showed up. Like me years ago, they were juggling school, work, bills, and a longing for an escape. I started free pottery classes for them, not just to teach shaping clay, but to show them how to find mental balance. Because I know the nursing life demands not just skill, but a steady heart. My new family isn't Thomas, Linda, or Eric. They're just memories now, a sad chapter closed. My real family is Mrs. Patterson, the neighbor with a kind smile and warm homemade bread. It's Jennifer, my colleague who gave me a sofa when my house was empty. It's the young students who call me Sister Claire with gratitude when I help them through financial crises. They're not blood, but they give me what my family never truly did, presence and unconditional love. News of my parents and Eric trickles in through distant relatives' half-hearted calls. My parents have separated. Mom's living in Uncle Greg's basement. Dad's in a cheap rented apartment in the suburbs. Eric's unemployed, struggling to find work with a tainted record. Hearing this, my chest no longer tightens. I don't feel joy at their downfall or pain at their struggles. I just feel a peaceful distance, a boundary far enough for my freedom, close enough to remind me I've escaped that cycle. At my housewarming party, the house buzzed with laughter. The dining table overflowed with food brought by friends: roast chicken, salad, apple pie, Jennifer's lasagna. Mrs. Patterson brought her famous blueberry pie, its aroma filling the room. As wine glasses were raised, Jennifer smiled at me. "Claire, you've taught us something. Strength isn't carrying everything. It's daring to set boundaries to protect yourself." Everyone clinked glasses, the cheers ringing like an anthem for a new chapter. I sat among them, feeling for the first time that I truly belonged to a family. When the guests left, I sat alone by the window. The sunset bathed the garden, casting pink and orange light on the sunflowers swaying toward the sun. A year ago, I sat here holding a note of betrayal. Today, I held a cup of tea and a peaceful heart. I whispered to myself and to anyone lost out there, "I'm not saving them anymore. I saved myself. And from that, I can give meaningfully." Sharing this story, I realized something simple yet profound. Sometimes you can't save a family too broken, but you can always save yourself. I learned to set boundaries to stop being a victim of exploitation. I also learned forgiveness isn't weakness. Paying Dad's hospital bills didn't mean I excused his wrongs. It proved my heart was big enough not to let hatred become a burden. The house I kept became a symbol of that journey. From barren emptiness to blooming vibrance, from pain to peace. And above all, I found a new family, people not bound by blood but ready to hold my hand when I needed it. If you've been hurt by family, remember, loving yourself isn't selfish, it's justice. Share your thoughts in the comments, hit like if you relate, and follow my channel to join me in more stories of strength, resilience, and healing.